Alright, hi everyone, it's Naomi. I am doing my presentation for my news article about an outbreak of plague in China. Now I realize there's a bit of a background whine and I apologize for that. I don't have a headset and it's the fan on my ancient computer. So I'm hoping it's not going to be too bad and we can get through this. Alright, so I picked a Vox magazine, well it's not really a magazine, it's a website article dated 20th November 2019. And it's titled, We Never Really Got Rid of the Plague. 3 people in China just caught it. So there's a screenshot of the article I selected. Basically, it just tells about there's 2 patients in China that were diagnosed with pneumonic plague. Later, a 3rd case of bubonic plague was reported. And allegedly, it was a 55-year-old who fell ill after eating wild rabbit. All the patients were from Inner Mongolia, which is an isolated and sparsely populated region in northern China. They were taken to Beijing for medical care after they failed to improve in local hospitals. Attempts were made by the Chinese government to silence medical officials and stop them from reporting, and then the Chinese censors were on the internet attempting to stop people in Beijing from talking about it. So there are 3 forms of plague, as you probably all know from my presentation last year. There's bubonic, septicemic, and pneumonic. And of course, they're all caused by Yersinia pestis. So microscopic morphology. Yersinia pestis is plump, short, gram-negative bacilli. They appear singly or in short chains. And they often show bipolar staining. Now, it's kind of hard to see in the picture I've got here. And that's because the gram stain is not actually the best method to show bipolar staining. Our textbook recommends Wason or Wright to see it really, really well. And there's actually a really good photo of it in the textbook if anyone's interested. Colony morphology. It's a very slow-growing organism. It's gray glistening, like almost everything else we covered when we did Enterobacteriaceae. Non-hemolytic. And colonies will develop this kind of unusual fried egg appearance over time. So if you see on the picture I've got here, in number D, it's a 96-hour colony. And it's kind of gotten really dark and white in the middle, and then it's kind of more translucent around the edge. And this is actually, if you grow this on a sin plate, the fried egg appearance is actually what turns that kind of pinky red color. And older colonies tend to stick to the media, so if you poke it with a stick, you get like this nice gooey tendril. So confirmatory tests, it is catalase positive, oxidase negative, urease negative, motility negative at all temperatures, which will differentiate it from other species of Yersinia, and it is a non-lactose fermenter on MAC. I got this nice kind of flow chart from North Dakota Health. I have a bigger version on the next page that we're going to look at. So it has this lovely little flow chart of what to do, and if you end up with Yersinia, obviously you probably don't want to be handling that on the bench. So there was a few extra pages which I haven't included that just kind of give you instruction about where to go from here. So some interesting facts. Yersinia species grow better at room temperature than they do in an incubator. If you grow Yersinia pestis in liquid media, you get these long streamers, which look kind of gross. Again, there's a nice picture in our textbook if anyone's interested. Yersinia pestis is actually terrible at staying alive and will die within hours in the environment. The World Health Organization reported approximately 3,200 people affected and about 580 deaths from the plague between 2010 and 2015. Over the years, plague has popped up in numerous countries, including the United States. Most cases occur in the West for some reason. No one really knows why. It is endemic to Madagascar, and there was actually an outbreak, I believe, in 2017 that killed about 2,000 people. Rodent eradication programs and general improvement in health and sanitation have limited Y. pestis from causing major outbreaks in first world countries. And both the United States and Russia were looking into weaponizing it during the Cold War. So that's fun. Alright, so the main vector is the rat flea. I'm not even going to attempt to say that, but there is the scientific name. The black rat is the main animal responsible for most urban outbreaks, although over 200 different kinds of animals can transmit the plague. And if you remember back to the beginning, the gentleman that caught bubonic plague, I think he actually ate wild rabbit. So, humans can be infected via a flea bite, handling contaminated materials, and then inhalation of aerosolized bacteria. So, the bite, the victim is bitten by a flea, or you can actually get it if you just happen to rub some Yersinia pestis into an open wound. This photo is actually, it's not real. It's their website, they do makeup to simulate what a disease would look like. But anyway, you get an infected flea bite is the main point of that. The bacteria will proliferate at the site, and they'll ultimately form a vesicle or an ulcer. The bump. So the bacteria are transported to the local lymph nodes via the lymphatic system, and you will get a nice bump like this gentleman here. As Y. pestis multiplies, the lymph nodes will become painful and inflamed, and then you will get an actual bubo, which is the characteristic lymphadenopathy. The lymph node is full of inflammatory cells, and it can actually ulcerate and then eventually turn black. And then the actual location of the buboes gives an indication of the original site of infection. So the buboes that actually swell up are the ones that are nearest to the flea bite where you were originally infected from. Alright, so you get rapid onset of fever, chills, headache, and kind of a general malaise. If the lymph node becomes damaged, the bacteria can disseminate through the bloodstream. In this lovely infographic I have on the left here, you will actually get necrosis of your extremities, which is picture number 3. So what will happen is when the bacteria is in the bloodstream, it will cause inappropriate activation of clotting, which will then kind of clog up all the tiny little capillaries in your extremities, and then you will start to lose your fingers and toes. So like I said, you'll get secondary septicemic plague, and then if the bacteria actually reach your lungs, it can develop into pneumonic plague, which can be spread by aerosols. So this is just a bigger version of that picture. It kind of takes you through the whole process. And actually it ends with a nice statement saying that pneumonic plague is the least common but most deadly form of the disease, and it is the only version of it that is actually transmissible by air. So, for treatment, Y. pestis is susceptible to quinolones, which are your agent of choice, tetracycline, TMP-SMX, and third-generation cephalosporins. So, is Yersinia pestis a public health and infection control concern? 100% is. Cases of Y. pestis are notifiable to public health and infection control. Most labs will send Y. pestis to a reference site because it's not that it's more, well, it is kind of more dangerous, but it's not something that you want to be handling in a normal lab. It is considered a potential agent of bioterrorism by the CDC, and it's typically 100% fatal if you don't treat it, especially pneumonic plague. And then this is kind of interesting. This is actually, it was part of the Vox article. In September 2019, the Global Preparedness Monitoring Board released a report stating that the risk of a global pandemic was growing. They said that there is a very real threat of a rapidly moving, highly lethal pandemic of a respiratory pathogen, which is very relevant to what's going on right now. And then I threw in this comment because it made me laugh. So, all right, so that's the end of my presentation. However, I have included kind of, I guess it's a self-directed quiz type deal. So I'm just going to kind of go through it and wait a few seconds so everyone can pick their own answer, and then I will show the answer. So I have, select the most likely way a person could contract bubonic plague. So your options are breathing in the bacteria, eating an infected bubo, being bitten by an infected flea, or by standing next to an infected person. And in this case, the answer is C, being bitten by an infected flea. So next question is, what is the causative agent of plague? So your choices are Yersinia enterocolytica, Yersinia pestis, your mom, or Treponema pallidum. And in this case, the answer is Yersinia pestis. And then the last question, the antibiotic of choice used to treat Y. pestis infections. So your choices are quinolones, essential oils, chloramphenicol, or euthanasia. And in this case, the answer is quinolones. So that's it. That's all I've got. Hope everyone's doing well, and stay safe out there.